Welcome to the Strackhouse, a show about inspiring women making change. I'm your host, Sarah Strackhouse. Join us to hear their incredible stories. Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining us for season 3. We are so excited to have you back. We have some amazing women featured. I'm so excited to introduce you to today's guest. Not only is she a badass woman, she has an incredible career and a passion for what she does, but she can also really shed some light on some of the current events that are going on right now in our country. I want to welcome Rania Mankarious. She is the CEO of Crime Stoppers Houston. Rania, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so I want to first off I know we're going to talk a little bit about current events, but I want to talk about you so that people can get to know you at first. So tell us a little bit about being the CEO of Crime Stoppers Houston, how you found the organization to begin with.
How much time do we have? So yes, I am the CEO of Crime Stoppers of Houston. If you saw me in real life, I'm 5 feet tall, maybe 1 inch, depending on the weather outside and how big my hair gets. But I have a passion for public safety, and I know it's odd, but I think it's actually a mix between a passion for public safety and understanding the power of media. I grew up in the Northeast, and I remember being in 3rd grade, 9 years old, and telling my parents I wanted to be Barbara Walters. And my parents were like, what? What'd you say? Like, why Barbara Walters? And I just remembered I would just always watch her, and I loved the power of her bringing like news stories, cutting edge stories, deep stories to the TV screen, and how that would influence my day or maybe affect my thoughts or maybe even impact my decisions. Mm-hmm. And so I said, I want to do that. I want to impact people's lives that way. But through it all, I ended up not studying journalism, and I figured I will try to get there I did a master's degree in marriage and family therapy. I then went on to law school, and I figured through a really unique package, I could maybe start to impact people's lives and contribute to the media, maybe as a support, supplying information in a supportive way. And through it, just fell in love with this notion that public safety really applies to everybody. So you talk to so many people, men, women, rich, poor, every color, every faith, and they have so many different interests. I mean, the interests they're so varied. But if you say, do you care about the health and safety of yourself and your family? The response is universal. And for me, that was an area that felt very compelling to me. So I ended up in Houston, got married to a Texan, and was trying to figure out my way. And I saw this listing for somebody with media experience to help with a public safety nonprofit, and went in for the interview, and the rest is very bizarre, but it ended up bringing me here.
I love that. And I know we were talking before, and the way you talked about Crime Stoppers, I mean, you're so passionate, the way you were saying, you wanted to educate the public, especially women. Can you talk a little bit about why this mission is so important to you?
Yeah, I think unfortunately, you can line people up in a room and they say, oh, my cause is homelessness. My cause is dressing children. My cause is vaccinations. And I think that's fantastic. We need, champions and volunteers in that area. But if you ask how many of you commit time to public safety, it's like, what? Why? No, we have a police department. We don't really, doesn't apply to us, but it really does. And public safety starts with you taking ownership, with you investing in the conversation, with you maybe taking time to read what's going on and trends and tricks and tactics, even that predators use, especially now with all of our kids online. It's really important that people become active in their own safety. Not to say that we're paranoid, that we're all embarking on danger every second, but the reality is this is an area where people don't really pay attention, but can do so much if they just give a little attention. And so I was on a mission. I became the executive director in 2013 and eventually the CEO in 2018. But the first thing I did in 2013 when I took over the organization I was on this mission to reach women. And When you do that, you start to realize that the conversations at home change. Little Lindsay wants to go ride her bike around the neighborhood all day. Okay, great, do it. But let's talk about what happens if you take a wrong turn, or you get lost, or somebody approaches you, or you fall on your bike and you can't get up. Just having the conversations opens up avenues for safety. And I just remember seeing so many kids, because we're in the schools, we're very active, who'll say, no, my parents never talked to us about, cyber safety. And it's like, well, they're in an area where they're dealing with strangers all day and potentially predators, and nobody's giving them guidance. And so there's
Everything's
many
online right now.
everything, especially with COVID. But I
Yes.
mean, it's just knowing that health and safety, when you really boil it down, are universal concerns that every single one of us shares. But for some reason, with safety, we all read about health, we all exercise, that's not a problem. But with safety, we're just kind of like, no, I don't know, it doesn't apply, or how does it apply? There was a lot of room there for us to work and grow and fill the space. And we've been doing that very, very diligently. Every day it is top of mind, and that's where we focus our efforts and energy. And it's created, early on we would have public safety meetings, and I'd like call my husband, please show up and bring
Right.
your mother and bring your cousins.
Let's get packed.
Yes, I'm like begging
Yeah.
people now. We it's always free, but we, quote unquote, sell out within an hour of listing what we're doing.
Wow.
Because we've created a community that understands, one, that they care, but two, now knows what to do about the fact that they care. So it's been wonderful.
That's incredible. And you kind of segued a little bit into this. You talked about, oh, we expect the police to do it, and just, everything that's going on. Public safety means so much more than just what people, I think, assume public safety to mean. I wanted to ask kind of your opinion right now, what's going on with replacing police with a response team or something like that. What's going on with defunding the police? What are your thoughts on that as someone who's in public safety?
Well, I'll start by saying that I love the fact that everybody's talking about this right now, because we have been sort of screaming about it for a long time. I think, unfortunately, where the conversation is going is not necessarily in the best interest of all. I think we've become a country where everybody has a voice, and that we've always been a country where everybody has a voice, but we've become a country where the loudest people are who we cater to. And the loudest people, even if what they're asking for is extreme and against the norm and against the majority, it's where the cameras go. It's where the social media goes. It creates the hashtags. It creates the trends. It creates everything. And we start to shape policy based on those loudest groups.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a little concerning. The question of reforming police is one that's needed. We need to be looking at how law enforcement is structured. There's 18,000 plus agencies across this country. They're operating differently. We need to look at the number of months it takes or years it takes to become a police officer, what type of education, their salaries, their training, what types of tools and tactics they're allowed to use. That is critical. And we're so happy that conversation is brewing. What's concerning is the narrative that we need to defund police or dismantle police. That's coming from a punitive narrative that law enforcement are bad. They are the problem in this country. We need to punish them. We need to have them operate with one hand tied behind their back. I don't think that argument is I'm afraid city councils across this country are catering to it, but I don't think that's going to help anyone in the long run. The third arm of that is increasing social services. We need to do that. We absolutely need to do that. And we can create a hybrid where law enforcement works with mental health experts. But defunding the police is not going to get us where we need to be. I actually think we need to pour more funding into law enforcement. We need to make sure they have better training, that we're recruiting higher caliber of officers, that we're retaining the officers, that they have everything they need to do their job successfully, while we're also increasing funding for social services and creating a hybrid or bridge between them. I just feel like the conversation now is so short-sighted very emotional in nature and is really following just the loudest people in the room and not necessarily what's in the best interest for all.
That's interesting. And it's really, I think you're striking a nice balance, talking about, coming up from a really logical and rational standpoint, which exactly what you said. Unfortunately, the silent majority is just that, silent. So I think your viewpoint is great. And I wish more people shared it.
It's funny because
about
whenever I say it, I'll get like a private message, like, thank you for saying that. We
Right.
all agree. But it's like, well, say it too. And again, we're not saying we all agree what happened to George Floyd was a killing. It was a murder and it was disastrous. And the worst thing you can have is police brutality. The worst thing. But also, guess what? The worst thing you can have is abuse as a doctor. We see cases where doctors send kids to get chemotherapy and the kids don't even have cancer. The worst thing oh my gosh, you see cases, because humans have these jobs. The worst thing we can have are teachers who are predators. So there are certain professions where we hold people to a higher standard, and that's good. We have to. Yeah. But to go ahead and discipline in a way that doesn't help the entire profession is really going to hurt all of us in the long run.
Yeah, I always say there's bad eggs everywhere. There's bad eggs who are journalists, there's bad eggs who are teachers, police, there's people who do bad things in every single profession. So to lump people together is it doesn't help. It doesn't help the situation. But sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say the discipline is important because law enforcement was unique in that it wasn't easy to immediately discipline or maybe even immediately remove a police officer. That's another area we need to be looking at. And I think right now we will be looking at that. We are looking at it.
Right. And I love that. And I feel like we could talk about this all day, but I do want to get back to you and Crime Stoppers and kind of what all you're doing, because you obviously have such a presence with this in today's society. But I feel like a lot of people, especially, where Crime Stoppers is big, they might not understand exactly what Crime Stoppers does, why it's so important, and how they can find out more resources and more about you. So are there a lot of misconceptions about Crime Stoppers, and what are kind of some of the challenges there?
There's a lot of misconceptions. So one, if you've heard of Crime Stoppers, you may have heard of it because it's on your local TV. Crime Stoppers is looking for XYZ information. Call them at this tip line. You may get a cash reward. So people think, one, we're an arm of the police department, and we're not. We're an independent 501c3 nonprofit organization run by civilians. Two, when you call that tip line, you really are anonymous and you're actually speaking to seasoned investigators with a host law enforcement agency. But three, we are more than that tip line. We are a public safety community-based nonprofit. Our mission is to solve and prevent crime, and that prevention arm has so many different layers. We are in the schools, kindergarten to 12th grade, talking to kids about all aspects of their safety, and every topic and issue they deal with, we're on top of it. So depending on the age, because it's always age appropriate, it's everything from drugs to synthetic drugs to dating to teen dating violence to online safety to cyber stalking, to location services, to gaming, to threats, to challenges, to school threats, to you name it. And our message goes on. We are in the community talking about identity theft, domestic violence, human trafficking, terroristic threats, home invasions, bank. We cover it all: animal cruelty, elder abuse, and it's a hub for all of these issues. And we believe that providing content, one, you can get around myths. There are a lot of myths. Human trafficking is a big one where people would say, oh, it's so sad that kids are trafficked, but thank God I don't have to worry about it. I live in a gated community and my kid goes to school. And it's always like, well, does your kid have a cell phone? Well, yeah, of course my kid has a cell phone. Well, then your kid could be targeted for human trafficking. And it's like, wait, what? So
you always think it's not going to happen to you.
You always do. And I think providing information that's not scary. We are not about scaring people. Everybody go out, do everything you want to do. My kids have cell phones. I believe in technology. I think all of it's so important. The point is to add the safety conversations, which is the thing that's lacking. So Crime Stoppers of Houston, I think, is a model for the future. We are now seeing the need to bridge the gaps between community and law enforcement. And I think that's why we're getting some of this heightened attention now, because it's like, wait a minute, you guys have been talking about this for almost 40 years. What are your thoughts on what we're seeing now? So we're very, very proud of the work we get to do every day. Thankful to the community partners and volunteers and donors who allow us to do this.
Right. I love that. And if Crime Stoppers is, we have audiences kind of all over the country. Where is Crime Stoppers? I mean, is it only in Houston? I mean, I know it's not, but can you tell people kind of where they can find out more about Crime Stoppers? So
the largest Crime Stoppers in the country is in Houston, and we're very proud of that. But there are Crime Stoppers organizations in almost every major city. They all operate the same way, mainly with an anonymous tip line that is used by police departments to get information anonymously and solve critical felony cases. What makes Houston so unique is that we have a really robust prevention arm. We've now started training all Crime Stoppers organizations throughout the state of Texas, thanks to Governor Abbott's request. And now we're training Crime Stoppers across the country so that they can also go into the schools. They can actually take copies of our entire program that we've spent a lot of time creating. We are in the schools removing weapons before weapons can be used against kids. Right in Houston, we've removed almost 300 weapons since we've gone into the schools. We started in 1997, well before school safety was a national hot topic. Right. But we have such an interesting model, and it really, really works. And so now people are catching on that there are solutions out there. We don't have to wait for a student to pull a trigger. We can get to them beforehand. And I think as people are catching on to that, the request for training is increasing. We're thrilled. While COVID is a nightmare, the technology that it's really put at the forefront through Zoom and all of that has helped us really reach a wider audience. So we're thankful for that. But yes, there are Crime Stoppers across the country and across the world. So it's a really unique organization. It is. Well, and you kind of, you talked about COVID a couple of times. I mean, obviously that's still so prevalent. I mean, it's ramping back up as things open up again. We see the numbers going up across the country. What are your thoughts on that? I know it's kind of an open-ended question, but as far as public safety is concerned, I mean, what are your thoughts there? Is shutting down the right thing? Is just taking concern when you're out? What are your thoughts there? Well, on the medical side, I mean, my thoughts are limited to the fact that we have to wear masks. We have to take steps to keep ourselves safe and to contribute to the safety of others. But I think there are also a lot of unique crime issues that are tied to COVID. And one, the first being, I mean, it's not the first in terms of most important, but the first that comes to mind are scams. Initially, when you have everybody scared of the same thing, it's an incredible opportunity for scammers to come in and monopolize. I mean, they're creating fake websites, they're selling fake insurance, they're selling fake testing, and they're really targeting elderly communities and people that are vulnerable. And then we look at things like family violence. I mean, people that are at stay-at-home orders with abusers. I mean, it's, you have abuse that is taking place at levels we've never seen before. And then some of the things that really concerned me is when we started to look at this early on, it was like domestic violence was skyrocketing. Animal cruelty was going up, but child abuse numbers were going down. And it was like, well, doesn't make sense. And then we realized it's not being reported. All of these children's advocates these kids are now being hidden. And so nobody's speaking up for them. So, certainly there are economists who will talk about the impact in the economy. And we know that when the economy is hit, things like mental health issues increase and drugs and alcohol increase and abuse and violence increase for sure. We're just worried about the well-being of all, and knowing that, we do have to open on some level because we have to strike a balance. Balance is sort of my word. Yes. Have everybody home without work, getting, with mental health issues, escalating drugs, alcohol, maybe family violence, versus people starting to go out and wear protective gear and maybe start to slowly work. We know the toss-up is that there's going to be an uptick in COVID cases. But there's going to be destruction either way. So I don't envy, no, and I don't envy our leaders who are having to make the really, really tough calls. Yep. It's a very unique time, really, really tough. I always say I would never want the responsibility of being the president. I have lots of opinions, but I would never want to have to be that decision maker. No, and I think
especially in situations like this.
no, and I've sort of raised my kids this way. I don't. It doesn't matter who the president is, and if we love him or her or can't stand him or her, there's got to be some level of respect for just
The
the
office.
magnitude of the job. And whether we think they're making the best decisions, the worst decisions, they're the most intelligent person, the most ridiculous person, it's the weight of the profession and the job. And I just have a lot of respect for it. Don't envy it. Would
No,
never want to do it.
nope.
Um, and continue to pray. Like our families, we pray for our leaders because
Yeah.
there's a lot of decisions that need to be made that directly impact us.
Exactly. And going forward, I hope that um, I hope we do strike some sort of balance and things get taken care of. But until then, I know we're all pushing forward. You're pushing forward. I know you have tons of great plans for the future for Crime Stoppers. You kind of touched a little bit upon them. You've had such a robust background. I'm just going to read a couple of them. Women Who Mean Business Outstanding Nonprofit Business Leader Award, International Chamber of Commerce Houston Hero Award, Houston's Most Stylish People Award. Number of others. And I know that the work you've done with CEO Crime Stoppers has been incredible. What are you hoping for the future?
Yeah, we have always felt that we are a model for not just Houston and not just Texas, but for the nation. And it's so easy to replicate what we're doing. And our wish is that, there'd be lines, figurative lines out the door, lists of people wanting to do our Zoom calls and trainings, because public safety, we've established, is something everybody cares about. And taking a hold of it and being in charge of it is not as difficult as people think, and everybody needs to do it. So we're excited to be training Crime Stoppers across the state. We want to see every Crime Stoppers active in their local schools, active in their local communities. And we've been doing it for so long. We're willing to share everything we have for free. Everything we do is for free, because it doesn't matter where you live, but these are our homes. These are our neighborhoods. These are our schools where we send our kids. These are our businesses where we invest, where we plan to retire. We all have to do our part to have a safe community. And there are just so many people I've met along the way that will say, I don't even know who the DA is. I don't even know who our local judge is. It doesn't matter. I'm never going to get arrested and stand in front of a judge. It's somebody else's issue.
Right.
But the reality is, it's, if you don't have a tough DA, if your judges are letting everybody out, crime increases and the effects are felt by all. So it's where we all have a role to play, and we all have standing. We all have an interest in this topic. And so we bring it together very creatively, very uniquely, and in a way that resonates with all.
And I absolutely love that. I wish everyone could hear this. Every person could hear this, because I feel like right now so many people are out there voicing their opinions, trying to get their heart across. And I think that's wonderful. But I also think people, like you said, are kind of forgetting about the second aspect of it, that policies take voting. They take
Yes.
political change as well. So that means, being involved in your local elections, even before you're voting for the president. And
Yes.
I whether you disagree with Obama or not, I don't always agree with what he says, but I saw actually a post on social media that he had, and I thought it was great. And he was saying, in a lot of the communities where a lot of the protesting is going on, the voter turnout is usually very low. He's like, this is the opportunity to go out, vote, and do the second part of change. Actually
Yes.
go out and vote. And
Yes.
those are the changes that are going to be the DA, the state attorney district, your local district attorney. And those are the people who are going to police the police, or police the situations that you really want to see change. So I kind of loved that conversation. And I think that your idea on public safety and talking about it in general is such an important one. And I hope that a lot of people can see this because of that, especially.
Oh, thank you. And I'll add to what you were just saying. People keep talking about police like they are just the ultimate problem right now. And it's really hard when you think men and women in blue get up every day. They don't know if they're going to come home. Many of them are people of color themselves. They come from minority backgrounds. They're just doing work that they love. But let's not forget, they don't just decide, hey, we're going to decide, we're going to take all social calls and we're going to be in charge of, it doesn't work that way.
Right.
They only take the calls that policymakers have dictated that they take. So if you don't like the way law enforcement works, vote. To your point,
in the local elections,
especially in local elections, because it's your local city council, it's your mayor, it's your, if you have a county judge, it's your commissioner's court, or depending on where you live and what the structure of your community looks like, they are the boss of law enforcement, and they are the ones that dictate what calls they take, how they take them, what tools are in their tool belt. And just look at Minneapolis. The technique of the knee on the neck is a legally allowed procedure there. So is it a good one? No.
Mm-hmm.
Was it used incorrectly with George Floyd? 100%. And we all know that. But let's look at what law enforcement's allowed to use and not allowed to use in a reasonable manner and create solutions that don't require burning down our cities. We all are on the same page. So, and a majority of us are not going to say like, yes, let's not have law enforcement, but we are agreeing that we need reform and we need to come to a solution. So I think now is a great time to get that work done.
I love that. And Rania, I feel like I could talk to you all day.
You need to.
I'll need to have you back on, in the future. But, and I think your perspective is so important for people to hear. But I do have one last question for you as we run out of time here. It's kind of a weird one, so you can take a second if you need to think about it. If I knew you better, what would I ask you?
If you knew me better, what? That's a great question. I think, do I do this out of paranoia or emotion and love? And really it comes from, some people say that girl seems paranoid. I was on a radio show once and you could see the notes pop up and somebody called me a paranoid mom. And I said, no, I'm not a paranoid mom at all. Of course I have some.
Yeah. I think every mom, the word mom comes with a little bit of paranoia, right?
Yes, I know. And then when you read sort of the cases that we see, but truly, I really do this job out of an overwhelming sense of like love and compassion. I really do. And I feel like we are so blessed to live in the cities we live, to be in the communities we're in, good or bad or good. We have the rights to vote. We have the rights to get involved. We have the right to contribute to our schools. There are so many nonprofits and charities willing to help, so many groups. We're all really blessed. And I see so much good in all of it. And I want to bridge all of that together. So I think that would be my answer. Well, I might steal that in another interview.
Oh,
I'm going to be
please.
like, let me ask you a question.
Yeah. Right? No, please do.
Came to me.
Yeah. And I think, I love what you're saying. And I think you're making a better, speaking of being a mom, you're making a better place for your kids and you're leading by example. So I think that's wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you.
Rania, where can people find out more information about you and about Crime Stoppers?
So Crime Stoppers is easy. It's crime-stoppers.org. And all of our social media is right there on our homepage. And then I am at the Rania Report everywhere. So I'm not a huge Twitter person because I feel like Twitter is a very angry place. But I'm trying to start. I just started using Twitter. But Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn, it's the Rania Report. And we would love, people ask how they can support Crime Stoppers. Obviously, we're a nonprofit, but share our information, follow us. We live and die by giving information that's helpful and critical. And we would love people to jump on and share and comment and be a part of the conversation.
Amazing. And then I also know that you're starting your podcast soon. So I want to make sure we direct people there. The Rania Report, correct?
I think so. I just came out of a 2-year podcast, 70 shows. I know how much work it is.
Yeah.
But I think it's time to go back at it again. So yes, I'm like hesitant because I'm like the work that's coming my way. But yes, it looks like
it'll be so good. I know I'll be listening for sure. I know a lot of our viewers are women, especially, and love following, strong women who are out there making change. And that's exactly what you're doing, as the CEO of a huge organization, a nonprofit. So I'll make sure to put kind of all the information in the description as well, where to find out all about you. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much, Sarah. It's so good to virtually see you.
Yes, I know. Virtually see you. Hopefully we get to meet in person soon.
You got it. Take care. Thank you again.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks everyone so much for joining us for this first episode. Of course, we're going to be weekly as per usual, Wednesdays at 6 o'clock Central Time, and we hope to see you next week. You can find us on all of your audio streaming services as well as YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, all the normal social media outlets at the Strackhouse. So we'll see you next week.
If you'd like to nominate an inspiring woman, email me at sarahstrackhouse@gmail.com. Thanks for joining. We'll see you next time.